Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Maiden Edition of Becoming More Against All Odds. My name is Miwaka Nimibuka, and I'm making this podcast from Port Harcourt, River State, Nigeria. Becoming More is telling the stories of ordinary women who have changed the narrative of their lives, dared the status quo, defying age and other inhibiting factors to become more, doing extraordinary things. Now, these women need to tell their stories. And you know how powerful storytelling can be to encourage, educate, and inspire other women to dust up their ambitions that have been lying docile for many years and become potentially what God has created them to be. In this maiden podcast, we're going to hear the story of our beautiful, eloquent, thoroughbred Dr. Jessie Fubara-Manuel, who has dared to attain laudable, admirable feats in her life. Welcome, Dr. Fubara-Manuel.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for inviting me to your Maiden Edition.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
How are you today? I know that there is a lot going on in your life. How are you doing? How are you coping?
By the grace of God, I'm fine. I'm doing okay. I take time to rest and I take time to walk according to the leading of the Holy Spirit. So I can say I'm doing well.
Thank you. Very nice to hear. Who are you?
My name is Reverend Dr. Jessie Fubara-Manuel. I am a Christian woman. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a one who loves the Lord Jesus Christ, who's saved by grace and who wakes up every day to the call of what God is calling in my life to do.
So, how would you describe? Yeah, that is who you are. But what are your educational qualifications?
I have a PhD in World Christianity from the University of Edinburgh, Scotland, UK, and my PhD centered about the role of women who live with disabilities and HIV and how the Christian faith helps them to cope with those challenges. And for 4 years, I worked with women in this research based on over 20 years of relationship in disability inclusion.
Whoa, that's a lot. You mentioned you're a wife.
Yeah.
And who is your husband?
I'm married to a very handsome, most Reverend Dr. Fubara-Manuel from River State, Calabari. So I'm Ibibio by birth and Calabari by marriage.
Okay, so that is where the name comes from.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. So what do you do? How do you impact the people in your life? What do you do? I would like to know.
Right now, disability inclusion is a passion and a commitment that I feel called to do. It is what I engage with. It is what drives me. And my Christianity, my faith, must enable disability inclusion in society, in the church, wherever we find ourselves. And everything I'm doing, whether I'm teaching at the theological college, or where I'm working with people with learning disabilities, or as an elder in the church, and now a reverend minister in the church, I'm looking for ways of making the place inclusive for those on the margins, and especially those with different types of disabilities.
Thank you. And I know that disability, working with people with disability will be very challenging. And it wasn't something you were doing from the start. No. So how did you start to become this passionate, this advocate for disabled people? Because I've seen you work with them and I admire what you do with them. How did you come to this calling? What would you say was in this initiation for this calling?
Thank you for that question. And it's always a baffle for me when I think about it. I didn't have this massive laid down plan that I'm waking up today and I'm going into disability inclusion. It was something that God led me step by step, and a journey that I never knew the next turn. And it all began in Aba when we were living in Aba. And I found that everybody was jumping and dancing in the church. And I felt something wasn't right. There were people who were weak. There were people who were old. People who had difficulties hearing, difficulties seeing. And they were not in that mix because the church had not made space for them. The church had felt that only those who could jump and shout and dance would be there. And I felt God calling me to seek them out. So at that time, with a few friends and the encouragement of the church and my family, we began the care ministry to seek out those who have left the church because they do not have a sense of belonging or welcome, and to bring them into the church. Because at the end of the day, the church is incomplete without everyone that Jesus Christ died for.
Something about your life intrigues me, and that is when you decided to go to Scotland. You know, having known you for years, I was like, what is Jessie up to? How could she just pack up, you know, leaving everything behind? What was that thing? What was the passion that drove you to leave everything behind and become more in Scotland?
I wouldn't say that I had a dream of going to Scotland or that I prayed about it and sought it out. I didn't. God's grace brought it to me. And it was also engaging with issues of disability that I had the opportunity. I realized that I couldn't make much difference if I didn't talk to the clergy, if the people who are the helm of affairs in the church were not sensitive to disability. And I found myself asking God, what was it He was asking me to do? Where was this going to lead? And so when the opportunity came, it was a question: would you want to study, know more about disability studies so you could come back and make a difference? I jumped at it. And my family was very supportive. My husband, my children. I was past, 50, and I didn't think there was a place, but God had a place, and God made it possible.
That is a niche. Is so important to me that you could get up at 50 and go to Scotland to study.
Yes.
And that gave you the platform that you have right now.
Yes.
At least it improved, it impacted on what you're doing right now.
Yes.
Now, you live in Scotland, more or less.
Mostly.
Mostly. So, and then you are in ministry in Scotland.
Yeah.
You work with the church. You're in the church in Scotland.
Yeah.
And then you have a job.
Yes.
Okay, what are the things you do that impact on people?
Thank you again. My life is, I describe it as living actively in two worlds. Because because I live most times in Scotland, but I'm also very frequent here in Nigeria, and it means that I bring the tension to bear to ensure that what God is calling me to every day is not missed. So as I'm a tent maker, which means I am not into paid full-time ministry.
Okay.
It means I can be a pastor, go into the work of clergy without the restrictions of being posted to any parish or being in charge of the parish. And it means I can have a job outside. So I can work with people learning disabilities in Scotland and also preach in the church there when they want, and then also work. I affiliate with the Church of Scotland. So I'm in the Disability Inclusion Working Group. I actually chair the Disability Inclusion Working Group for the Church of Scotland. And then back home here, I'm also carrying out the Enabling Church course, a forum where we teach people how to make churches, disability inclusive. So all of this is just bringing out a passion that if people know how to engage with issues of disability, perhaps they will be more sensitive, they will be more humane, and they will give dignity to everyone, even those with different types of disabilities.
I asked earlier on about sharing their stories.
Yes.
Is there any particular story that comes to mind that is going to challenge us, make us think again about how we behave?
The one that comes to mind most now is about a young lady who went to church. She was free and she went to church, not knowing what the program in the church was. And when she went in her wheelchair, it was coincidentally a healing service. And when the ushers saw her, they grabbed her wheelchair without even talking to her and took it up, to the front of the church. And everybody surrounded her, shaking her, praying for her, trying to stretch her legs. And she felt so insulted and so disrespected, because what she wanted that day when she went to church was fellowship. She felt that she wanted to sing and dance with other people and worship God. What she wanted was friendship, people to stop with her at the end of the day, not people to disrespect her and pull her chest, pull her legs, that she had to begin to nod somehow, so they would just let her be. And this kind of insensitivity and this inhumane way of treating people with disabilities is all over the place. The misconception of what they want and not having the respect to ask them what exactly they want.
That is so sad.
Yeah, it was very sad.
I wonder how she understood the church, the conception that she would have about church. They affect her for a long time.
I mean, many of them face these things and over again. And the beautiful thing about these women or men, I work more with women, is that many of them have a strong faith in God. They have come to see God as friends, as healer, as dependent, as companion, and to trust God that in God's good time, healing in whatever form will come to be. So they're not removed from their spirituality and their faith. How frequently some of them go to church may be questionable, but in terms of their personal relationship with God, many of them are very resilient and they're very steadfast.
That's so soothing to know, because being an outsider, that's what I mean. I'm not disabled in any form, so it's so, sometimes you look at them and you think it's pity they need. Meanwhile, it's understanding and compassion and friendship that they need. And I see you do a lot of that. I see you work with them, and I admire you for that. Now, let's move away from disability and think about achieving our dreams, making good our potential. That's putting our potential to use. How do we encourage women, despite their age, like I said in the introduction, to defy their ages, break open, just break out of the mold and become what they really desire to be? What advice would you give to women who are docile? Just like, not that they don't want to, but they don't seem to have the enthusiasm or the power, the passion. They may have the passion, but they don't have the will, to go for their dreams.
Thank you. I want to start by saying that we can't deny the fact that we live in a very patriarchal society. The society where women are always seen to be not good enough, sometimes second class, where women have to work twice as hard as the men to be noticed. And this patriarchy, sometimes it clouds women because of the domestication of what a woman is supposed to be. We cannot run away from that. So people like us who have families that support us, spouses that fan our embers, we do not take that for granted. But we must acknowledge that it is part of God's grace in our lives. And to shame patriarchy where it puts women down, and to call it out as ungodly, as oppressive. And be that as it may, what I tell women is, describe yourself. Who are you? What do you want your daughter to see? Because sometimes we forget that we're raising daughters who would want to, take, what we're taking and go further with it. We have to ask ourselves, what is the legacy we want to keep for our children and our grandchildren? And in Africa, where you challenge people, not because you've given birth to them biologically, but because we raise children as villages, as communities. So when you describe yourself, ask yourself, and if you're a person of faith like me, you know that not to put your gifts and to use is a dishonor to God. Because God has equipped us, has enabled us, and we need to find out each day, what are you asking me to do? I ask myself when I wake up, what am I called to do today? So I may not have a grand plan to follow step by step, but I just do that little thing, that little step, and then I take it from there and trust God for the next corner.
Daily.
Every day. Because every day comes with its different challenges, and it's only God who calls us from tomorrow, because God is in tomorrow, and we are here, and He sees where we're going, and so we can trust Him. And so every day I wake up, I'm like, Lord, what are you calling me to do today? Help me to be faithful. Give me the grace to be faithful, and surround me with the people to make that happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. When you say shame patriarchy, shame it, call it out.
Yes.
For what it is.
Yes.
In Africa?
Yes.
In Africa?
Yes.
It's very tough to do.
Yes.
It's very tough to do. But if we will all, because some of us, in the subtle way, we'll find that some of us, like married women, will find some men putting down their wives. You cannot do this. You're a woman, so you cannot talk. You can't talk too loud. You don't do this. These inhibitions are there. But we're trying to sort out women like you. Because you broke out of the mold. You did something extraordinary. And like you said, with the support of your family. So this is to say that our family support is very crucial.
Yeah.
It's very crucial.
It's very crucial. Very, very crucial. And I encourage young girls to have the conversation early.
Yes.
I tell them, don't make it a secondary conversation. Have that conversation on day one.
Yeah.
Because when you make it a secondary conversation...
Sorry, when you mean day one, is it as you marry or before?
As you get into friendship, let people know what you're about. As you begin friendship, let the community of your friends, male and female, speak out your dream, speak out what you see. Let them know, so that those who want to come and ask for marriage will know what they're getting themselves in for. We're not asking for women to be out there, and not take consideration for family. We have bills for family, but we're saying that our families should fan our embers and not dim our lights.
Good.
When we find families dimming our light, we should call them out. It is not acceptable, because we are all differently gifted, and if any gift is not allowed, to shine, then that gift has been disrespected.
Thank you again. This is so well said. Telling us that we should have families, encouraging families to fan our embers. Make them glow, not to dim our light. We're not in competition after all.
No, we're not.
You're individual, I am an individual. So encourage me to glow as I encourage you to glow. Thank you so much for having me, for being here with us, and for your time. I really appreciate what you've said. Is there any last word you want to say?
Well, the last word is just on the other side. That when we talk about patriarchy, we should also look at women who have been informed and formed by patriarchy and become part of the oppressive mechanism for patriarchy. Women should be champions. Well, look at the tradition, some of the traditions of our cultures. Women are the executors.
Really?
Widowhood practices, for instance. Women are the perpetuators, are the ones that are executors. A woman does something wrong, a woman is the one sent to punish the woman. Or a woman is trying to fly, another woman comes to say, who is going to cook for your husband? Who is going to keeping you? So
where are you keeping your kids for? You're abandoning your family.
They are speaking informed by patriarchal tendencies. Women must be champions of women, so that together they can encourage the men to work together. We are a community that God has created differently, and everyone in that community is important and necessary for the growth of each one another. It's like saying we're different parts of a body, and we need to function individually in order to make this aggregate that makes sense. That's what you're saying. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, everyone of us. So viewers, we thank you for listening to us. We appreciate your time. I hope that we have learned one or two things from the story of Jessie Fumaran Manuel, Dr. Jessie Fumaran Manuel. And I pray, two things that I want to tell us from what she has said, that we should encourage ourselves to do more, and that all of us, we need to support each other, not to dim the other person's light, but to fan the embers, so that everyone will glow and become more against all odds. If we support one another, the odds will be minimized, and then we will all become what we were created to be. So I encourage everyone, put down that first line, write that first line in that story, in that book that you've been postponing to write. Register in that online course that you want to do. I once met somebody who was 65 and was having his first runway shoot. 65. He didn't consider himself too old, but at that age he decided that this is what I've always wanted to do, so let me just go for it. So it just takes a step, puts one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you are made, and you're fulfilled and happy with life. Thank you so much for this podcast. If anyone has the story of another inspiring woman, eloquent, someone who has done much, achieved a lot like Dr. Jesse, please let us know. You can reach us on our email, mewakanimebuka@gmail.com, or WhatsApp only on +234 8033091217. Thank you all for having us. And until the next time that we'll meet, God bless you. Remain super blessed. Thank you.